Alright, so Coffeezilla just called out Adam22 for running a crypto coin, which he says was a pump and dump scheme. So let's check out this video.
Coffeezilla is kind of a grifter himself because he just sort of like, he makes a lot of money off making content about all of these little mini meme coin disasters.
Now, Adam22 used to like me. He used to invite me on his show, but now he's mad. He says I'm the grifter. Why? Because I called him out when he ran a scam, and I warned him ahead of time. Here's the quotes here. Real talk, you shouldn't run a coin. It's lame and you're going to get scammed. You're going to scam or get scammed. He says, how am I going to afford all this Galaxy gas? Then I told him these snipers were planning to already snipe the coin. Quote, people are literally plotting to snipe the coin, make a bundle off someone who doesn't know any better. So this is all pre him actually doing it. Now he's saying, oh, I didn't know. Nobody told me.
Alright, so as you just saw, Adam22 straight up called Coffeezilla a grifter, and he said that that's because Coffeezilla makes videos on these like meme coin disasters that happen, and you know, because of those videos being monetized, he makes a lot of money off of them. Which sure is true because, you know, Coffeezilla has a huge channel, he gets so many views, and, you know, he covers situations like these, and, you know, he sheds light on these situations. And so, yeah, I mean, you could say, yeah, sure, he is making money off of this, but then calling him a grifter is pretty insane, because the thing is that he does actually do, like, genuine journalism, you know, he actually genuinely like looks into these kinds of situations and he covers these topics. So even though he does make money, you can't say that this guy's a grifter. That makes no sense. And also another thing is that Adam22 actually used to like Coffeezilla until now, because now Coffeezilla's made a video about him, right? So it's like, hey, you know, you're cool and all until you cover something based off of what I do, okay? Then we have a problem, alright? And now the crazy thing here is that before Adam22 actually promoted that coin, Coffeezilla actually reached out to him and he told him that, hey man, you really should not be doing this. And Adam22 just ignored that. So he went ahead and he did it anyway. And he just ignored the warning and he went ahead anyway. And then Coffeezilla actually shows screenshots of his conversation with Adam22. So he says how, hey man, you shouldn't be running this coin. You know, you're either gonna scam or get scammed. And then Coffeezilla actually told him how there were people who were actually planning on sniping that coin. So, you know, already, you know, it wasn't looking good for that coin. And he just showed the screenshots to Adam22. He gave him the proof. And Adam22 still didn't listen. He just said he didn't care. You know, he's just promoting the coin. And, you know, he said, I just got paid to do the tweet and I got nothing to do with it. And he also said, I'm gonna venture a guess that approximately 0% of my fans know how to do anything with crypto. You know, that's in the DMs that he showed. And, you know, so Adam22 is basically saying that, yeah, sure, you know, I promoted the coin, but, you know, my fans don't really know anything about crypto, so I bet it's not a big deal. I bet it's not going to be a problem anyway. So, yeah, overall, you know, the DMs just show that, you know, Coffeezilla reached out to Adam22. He told him, hey, man, look, you shouldn't be doing this, and he gave the reasons for it. And ultimately, Adam22 just ignored those. And so now, let's watch the next clip.
And he says, oh, I had no idea something nefarious would have happened.
And I also had no idea about any sort of nefarious intent. People are saying that this was a rug pull. I didn't know. I didn't realize that this was going to be the same type of thing that I've watched so many Coffeezilla videos about.
Adam, I told you. This is the thing. This is what kills me. Is people, when I come to them, they go, oh, I had no idea. If I had known, I would have never done it, right? They say, if you had only warned me, Steven, if only you had told me before, I just wish I had known better. This guy knew better. He knew. People are literally planning to snipe the coin, make a bundle off someone who doesn't know any better. Now, here he is, Adam22, I'm the grifter. He's here saying he had no idea.
Alright, so as you just saw, Adam22 addressing the situation said that, oh, he didn't know that this was gonna be one of those like crypto rug pull situations. And in case you don't know about the rug pull thing, I think the best way I could explain it is that basically, there's a crypto coin that like launches, and then after that, as people start buying it and all that, what happens is that the price starts to increase. It starts to become valuable. Now, as that happens, the price is going up and up, and there's all this like hype building up about the crypto coin. And as that's happening, as the value is continuing to rise, at that point the rug pull happens. So the rug pull is basically a huge amount of the crypto is then sold all at once and suddenly, right? And because of that, it then causes the price to drop really quickly. But then the problem is that for the people who were still holding the coin, the ones who still had it, now they're gonna have a huge loss because they still have the coin, they bought it at a certain price, and then now the price has dropped because someone sold a whole bunch of that coin, right? So now the value has dropped, and the original value at which you bought it was a lot higher. Now the value is a lot lower, and so now you've ended up in a horrible situation. You've ended up taking losses. However, the person that did the rug pull, they made a whole bunch of money because they bought it at a certain price, it went up, and once it had gone up, then they did the rug pull. So their exit price was actually quite higher than their entry price, right? So in that way, they made a whole bunch of money. And you, the person who was still holding it, who wasn't aware that the rug pull was about to happen, you got cooked basically. And so Adam22 is making the argument that, hey, look, I didn't know that this was gonna happen with this coin, but then Coffeezilla shows the DMs of where he was actually warning him not to do all of this, and he warned him ahead of time that something fishy was going on, and then Adam22 ignored it. Now, real quick, I'd like to say that it would mean a lot to me if you would subscribe, because I am trying to grow this channel, so more subscriptions really help with that, and it really helps out the channel. So yeah, that would be really appreciated if you did that. Now, anyway, back to the video. Now, let's watch the next clip.
I do ad deals all the time for like, thousands of dollars. Why would I not do something for hundreds of thousands of dollars? Same level of weight as when I do an ad for a fantasy sports thing. I feel like every single person that watches my content knows that I don't play fantasy sports. I felt like, in the past I was doing ads for something that was like a vape, but it's flavored air. And I feel like every single person who watches that ad gets it. That I don't know what the am I using a device to inhale flavored air? I'm going to be honest with you, no, I'm not.
Alright, so here basically Adam22 makes the argument that it's not like he actually uses the products that he promotes, and he basically gives these examples, like he talks about fantasy football, and he says that, oh hey, I promoted fantasy football, however at the same time it's not like I actually play it. And then he also mentions this other thing where like he promoted a vape, and it was like flavored air, something like that. And he basically used the argument that, hey, look, I don't use that either. So, for him, it was like, yeah, sure, I don't personally use a certain product or like, engage with it. But then at the same time, I'm being paid to promote it. So, I'm just going to do it anyway. That's the argument that he uses. Although the problem here is that, those are different products where like, okay, you're just using a product, you're paying some money, you're using it. But then the thing here is that with a crypto coin that's going to get rug pulled, dude, people can lose insane money on that kind of stuff, right? Like if they're thinking to themselves like, oh, this thing is going to go up and it's like, I'm going to make a whole bunch of money and this is really going to help me out. If someone like that is then now putting a whole bunch of their money into that coin because of your promotion, now they're going to lose a whole bunch of money when that rug pull happens. And that happened specifically because you promoted it. You know, they wouldn't have known otherwise. Or at least not that many people from your audience would have actually found out about it through like just other means, you know, had you not actually promoted it. So yeah, guys, it's a pretty crazy situation, and these were my thoughts on it. But then now I'm interested in hearing what you think about this down in the comments below. So leave a comment letting me know what you think, and we can have a discussion down there. And with all that being said, guys, this is Alexi signing out.